Welcome to my review of the VUEROID S1-4K Infinite Dash Camera. It comes in 1-channel, 2-channel, and 3-channel configurations. I would like to thank the company NC&, which is the company that designs and manufactures the VUEROID brand of dash cameras, for sending me the dash cameras to review and sponsoring this video. In this video, I'll go through a list of features and specifications, some unboxing pictures, power consumption information with time estimates for how long it can operate in parking mode, configuration information, video samples, pros and cons, and my final thoughts. So, let's get into it! This video contains several video chapters. If there's one of particular interest to you, jump to the time index listed on the screen here, or expand the video description section and click on the link down there. Hope you enjoy the video. Starting off the unboxing of the S1-4K Infinite Dash Camera, I have the 2-channel box here. That's what I was sent during the prototype testing when I received my units, but I did receive all components for the 3-channel as well. On the side of the box, there is a list of features and specifications for this 2-channel configuration. In this video, I do have a features and specifications section that includes the additional information for the interior camera as well in the 3-channel configuration. The last item on the list is the AI Plus app, or VUEROID Hub app. That's an app that you have for your iOS or Android devices that's used to configure the dash camera to perform a live view of the cameras over the Wi-Fi connection with the camera. You can also download the video content, play the video content, and using the artificial intelligence features on the VUEROID cloud service, you can submit videos to the VUEROID cloud service to process it for license plate restoration and the privacy protection feature. Those two particular features are not built into the dash camera itself or the VUEROID Hub app, but the VUEROID Hub app and the PC player that's available for Mac and Windows computers is how you can submit the videos to the VUEROID cloud service to take advantage of those AI features. Removing the outside cardboard sleeve from the box, you can see the blue box cover. I've removed that, and then inside there you can see the S1-4K Infinite user manual. After removing the user manual, you can see the front camera on the left side and the rear camera on the right side. After removing the cameras, we can see there's a cardboard insert which acts as the shelf between the other items in the bottom of the box and the cameras, and those other items we'll take a look at in just a moment. Here are those items that were at the bottom of the box. On the upper left, we have the replacement adhesive pads for the front GPS windshield mount, and also the rear camera. For the 3-channel configuration, you'll get an adhesive pad for the interior camera as well. You have some cable clips to help you route the cabling through your vehicle with the adhesive pads on the bottom side of those, a trim tool to help you route the cables through the vehicle, the rear camera cable, which again is a specific cable to the S1 series. So if you're upgrading from a D21-4K, that is a different cable than the one included with the S1-4K. Cigarette lighter adapter power cable is listed there, so if you want to support driving mode operations, you can power it in that manner. The USB-C power and data cable, you can use that to connect the S1 to your computer to transfer video files as necessary. And on the right-hand side is the 3-wire hardwire cable included in the box that supports driving and parking mode operations. One item not shown in this picture that is included with the dash camera is the front camera circular polarizing lens filter, CPL filter, and I'll show you that in just a moment in the video. Now taking a look at the front camera, it's a 4K ultra high definition 60 frames per second capable dash camera when HDR or high dynamic range features turned off. And that particular recording mode is called normal recording mode in this dash camera, and HDR is supported at 30 frames per second. It's using the Sony Starvis 2 IMX678 image sensor, and the front camera lens has a diagonal field of view of 151 degrees. The upper left-hand corner shows the 2.3-inch screen. It has status LEDs at the base of it for recording, Wi-Fi, and microphone, and then the control buttons are located below that. Top center, you can see the front lens range of motion. It is a ratcheting assembly to hold the position once you've adjusted it to the proper location. And the lower center, you can see the GPS mount that has been removed from the camera and the cables that actually plug into that GPS mount for the power, and the other cameras, and I will take a look at the side and top sections in just a moment in the video. Looking at the top side of the front camera, on the camera itself, there is a slide switch to turn on and off the power. On the GPS mount, the DC in, which it accepts the system voltage from the vehicle or a dashcam battery pack into that particular DC in port. The rear camera port is in the very center, and the interior camera port is on the right-hand side. Looking at the left-hand side of the front camera, you can see that's where the micro SD card slot is located. The memory card maximum capacity that's supported by the S1-4K Infinite is 512 gigabytes. On the right side of the front camera, you have the USB-C data port and power port. This can be used with the included USB-C data cable to connect the S1-4K Infinite to your computer, Windows or Mac, and then it will mount the file system on the micro SD card if you leave it in the S1-4K Infinite, and you can download your video files in that manner. You can also use this port while in the vehicle, and you can power the dash camera if you supply your own third-party USB power adapter and cable to provide 5-volt power to the dash camera, but parking mode is not supported in that configuration. Only driving and recording operations are supported in that configuration. Moving on to the rear camera, it's a 2K or quad high definition dash camera recording at 30 frames per second. It always has the HDR or high dynamic range recording mode enabled. There's no setting to turn that on or off in the dash camera. It is using the Sony Starvis 2 IMX675 image sensor, and it has a diagonal field of view for the lens assembly of 160 degrees. In the upper right picture, you can see the location of the adhesive mount pad for the rear camera assembly. In the lower pictures, you can see the lens position in the full down on the left-hand side and the full up position, which is a ratcheting assembly just like the front camera. If you have rear window glass that is vertical or near vertical, as long as that's located at the very rear of the vehicle, this is not a problem. I have that type of vehicle myself, and I was able to aim the rear camera just fine. If you're mounting this further forward in the vehicle, like in a pickup truck, you may have additional challenges in aiming it exactly where you would like to, so keep that in mind as you position this camera in your vehicle. In this last picture for the rear camera assembly, I'm showing the non-detachable cable that's connected to the rear camera itself, which has a length of 35 centimeters or 1.14 feet, connected to the cable that's included in the box, which has a length of 6 meters or 19.68 feet. It's recommended that the 90-degree connector plug into the front camera, allowing the straight connector to be the one that's routed through the vehicle, making it a bit easier to route through various panels and any rubber tubings or anything that you need to route it through to get it to the rear of the vehicle. If you have the 3-channel version of the S1-4K Infinite dash camera, it will include this interior camera. It's a 1080p or full high definition 30 frames per second capable camera. It uses the Sony Starvis IMX307 image sensor, and the lens assembly has a diagonal field of view of 170 degrees. On the left picture, you can see there are 3 infrared LEDs on the camera assembly, and in the upper right corner, there is an ambient light sensor so that the camera knows when to go into day mode or night mode. And in night mode, of course, it will activate the infrared LEDs. In the upper right corner, you can see the side of the camera with a cable length noted of 1 meter or 3.28 feet. In the lower right picture, you can see the mount assembly, the adhesive pad that can be used to mount it to the window glass or surface in the vehicle. There's an adjustable ball socket there. You can loosen and aim the camera as necessary. And then if you wish to detach the camera from the mount, you can slide it to the side to detach it from the mount assembly as well. As I mentioned earlier in this section of the video, the S1-4K Infinite dash camera does include a front camera CPL filter. And that filter is pressed onto the front camera lens assembly. There's some friction material on the inner ring of the CPL filter, and that's used to keep it in place simply by pressing it onto that front camera lens barrel. There's a white alignment mark you can see on the outer portion of the CPL filter, and that's used to align with the plastic ridge that's on the front camera lens assembly so that you know where to press it onto on the front camera lens assembly. It's a simple remove the plastic film, make sure the filter is clean, and press it onto the front camera lens assembly, making sure it's aligned correctly. On the screen, I have a lot of information related to the S1-4K Infinite dash camera as far as features and specifications. If you're into the small details of the dash camera, this page is for you. If you're not, you might want to glance through the various things to see if there's anything of interest to you, and you can move on to the next section. I'm going to go through some of the things quickly here just so you're aware of them, such as the processor or system on chip is the Novatec 98530. The image sensors I talked about in the unboxing section, the Sony Starvis 2 IMX678 4K ultra high definition image sensor used in the front camera. The rear one is the Sony Starvis 2 IMX675, which is a 2K quad high definition image sensor. And then the interior camera has the Sony Starvis, the older generation IMX307 for a full high definition or 1080p image. The camera lenses I mentioned in the unboxing section, the diagonal field of view for the front is 151. The aperture is f1.6. Rear is diagonal field of view of 160 and an aperture of 1.6. And the interior camera has a diagonal field of view of 170 degrees. With regard to the memory card capacity maximum, that's 512 gigabytes. It does use a proprietary file system based on the FAT32 file system. So the memory card is compatible with your Windows and Mac computers or anything that can read a FAT32 based file system, but it does format it in a particular way to pre-allocate files on the disk, and it's called the TFF file system or 3-free file system, file fragmentation free, crash free, and format free. So if you change any of the configuration settings, such as the number of channels or the bit rate or resolution of a camera, it will go ahead and reformat the memory card to make sure you've got your content and videos, whatever you might have on the memory card backed up before you make such changes. The front screen has a size of 2.3 inches. In the video and audio codecs and file container type section, the video is encoded using the H.264 or AVC codec. Audio is using the AAC codec, and the file container type is an MP4. In the video resolutions and frame rate section, I show the 1-channel, 2-channel, and 3-channel offerings for resolution and frame rate. If you do configure the front camera for 60 frames per second, be aware HDR is not supported at that frame rate. And if you configure the 3-channel configuration at 60 frames per second for the front camera, the interior and rear cameras will record at 15 frames per second. In the video enhancement settings section, you can see for driving recording mode, the front camera is the one that you get to configure. The rear and interior cameras are always recording with high dynamic range or HDR enabled. So for the front camera, you have normal, HDR plus the infinite plate capture feature, which helps capture license plates during the daytime in brighter environments. HDR is the other option. For the front camera only, you do have an HDR timer feature for driving recording mode. It will enable or disable HDR. You have the option of having HDR on all the time, which means the timer is basically disabled. It's just on all the time. Or if you disable it being on all the time, you can set the start hour and end hour for the HDR feature to be enabled and disabled for the front camera. For parking recording mode, there is no HDR timer, it's just a fixed setting for the front camera. You either have normal, HDR, or premium night vision, which is a feature to enhance the amount of ambient light to a level to give a better image so you can see what's going on around your vehicle. And then again, remember the rear and interior cameras are always recording with HDR enabled. Moving on to Wi-Fi connectivity, this dash camera of course supports 5 GHz and 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi connections. The default speed is 5 GHz. The connectivity is intended for the VUEROID Hub app, and that is available for iOS and Android devices. Moving on to the next item, the GPS receiver. It is a built-in item in the windshield mount for the front camera. For the topic of battery or supercapacitor, this dash camera does not include a battery or supercapacitor in the main power supply for the dash camera. It's utilizing that TFF, the 3-free file system, and thus if it loses power, the TFF will be used to help recover the file. Since the files are pre-allocated, during the next power on of the dash camera, it will repair that video file or set of video files that were recording at the power off event. Moving on to the power options for this dash camera, there are options that will support both driving recording and parking modes, and then there's versions of this that will only support driving recording mode. The ones that support both driving and parking modes are the 3-wire hardwire cable that's included in the box, or you can buy the optional accessory, the VUEROID OBD2 power cable. And if you wish to support only driving recording operations of the dash camera, which some people only need that, they don't need parking mode operations, you can use the cigarette lighter power adapter cable that's included in the box, or you can supply your own USB-C power adapter and 5-volt power cable to connect to the USB-C port on the side of the front camera. Moving on to voice commands and voice notifications. Voice commands are used to control a dash camera's operations. This dash camera does not include that feature, but it does include voice notifications, such as when it's returning from parking mode and an impact occurred, it will alert you to the fact that an impact event did take place while in parking mode. Moving on to parking modes and parking mode features, I've listed the various parking mode types that are available, the DuraShift parking mode, the parking mode geofencing feature. So this is a very high-level overview of the features available in the S1-4K Infinite dash camera. I will have a separate video on my channel that you can find a link to that in the video description section that goes into detail about parking mode types, event types, recording types, all the various pieces that make up a parking mode operation for this specific dash camera. So check out that link in the video description section. On the left side of the list are the 3 different parking modes available with this dash camera: impact and motion, impact and time-lapse, and extreme low power mode. The first 2 are the basic parking modes. One of those 2 have to be selected at all times. Impact and motion is monitoring for an impact or motion event based on the sensitivity setting in the dash camera. And when one does occur, it will then go into a memory buffer, pulls 10 seconds of video and audio, and starts creating recording files at that point. And then 20 seconds from the triggering event will be recorded as well. And then we'll go back to a monitoring mode again, waiting for the next one of them to occur. Moving on to impact and time-lapse parking mode. Now this monitors for impacts just like impact and motion and behaves in the exact same way. When a triggering impact event occurs, it retrieves 10 seconds from the video buffer and then records for an additional 20 seconds after the triggering event. But when it's not handling an impact event recording, it is creating time-lapse video. So on a continuous basis, it's recording 1 frame per second with no audio. The playback speed is at 5 frames per second, and each video file length for time-lapse video is 20 seconds. So 5 times 20 is 100 seconds of wall clock time for each time-lapse video file. Moving on to extreme low power mode. This feature is what I consider to be the star feature for this dash camera. It allows the dash camera in parking mode to reduce its power consumption to 1 milliamp or less. And when it's in that mode of operation, it is monitoring for impact events. When an impact event is detected, it will start recording files within 1 second of the impact event for a total of 30 seconds. Now, since it's in that extreme low power mode, waiting for the impact, it has no ability to buffer any video or audio like in the other 2 parking modes. So it's an unbuffered recording from the 1 second after the impact and for a total of 30 seconds in the recording files. Moving on to the features on the right side of the list. First one is the DuraShift parking mode. This is a feature where the dash camera is monitoring its internal temperature, and when a high heat condition has been detected, it will switch from impact and motion or the impact and time-lapse parking mode, whichever one is operating in. It will then automatically switch to extreme low power mode. This is a way to make sure that the dash camera internals and memory card are not damaged by the high heat, and it will continue to protect your vehicle by being in extreme low power mode, and it will still respond to impact events. And since it's operating at an extremely low power consumption rate of 1 milliamp or less, the dash camera will cool down. And then when it has cooled down sufficiently, it will then return to the original parking mode that the dash camera is configured to operate in. Moving on to the last feature in this list for parking mode, and that's the parking mode geofencing feature that is set through the auto rec off zone settings in the dash camera menus or through the VUEROID hub app. This feature allows you to define 3 different locations, or what's called a zone. Each one is a zone, and it's a set of GPS coordinates, so latitude and longitude, and a radius based on number of yards, 30, 50, or 100. After you register the 1, 2, or 3 zones, depending on how many you would like to take advantage of, when you drive your vehicle and then park it again, if it's within one of the predefined and enabled zones, because you can disable a zone leaving the coordinates registered, but if the zone is enabled and it's within the radius of the GPS coordinates for that zone, the dash camera will simply turn off rather than going into parking mode. So this is a great way to save power consumption from the dash camera and also potentially save some memory card space as well. This was a high-level overview of the various parking mode features for this dash camera. Again, please check the video description section or leave a comment for this one if you have a question about the parking mode. Look for the link for that other detailed parking mode discussion for this dash camera. Moving on to the last set of features in the list of features, those are the AI features. Now, the dash camera itself does not implement AI logic for the AI license plate restoration or the AI privacy protection. The video files that are obtained from the dash camera are uploaded via the VUEROID Hub app or the PC Viewer to a cloud service where the processing is handled on the cloud side. The video files are then downloaded from the cloud service back to the client application running on your phone or computer. So if you wish to take advantage of the AI license plate restoration, where it will attempt to enhance blurry or degraded license plates, or the AI privacy protection, where it will attempt to blur license plates and faces of people walking or driving, again, you need to use the VUEROID Hub app or the PC Viewer app to submit those files to the cloud service. That is worthy of a video on its own, so my review video will not go into great depth of those features, but I mentioned them here so that you are aware that they exist. This concludes my features and specifications section for the VUEROID S1-4K Infinite Dash Camera. If you have a question, make sure you leave your question in the comment section for this video. A quick note about the videos I include in my review videos. I turn off a feature that will display GPS coordinates on the status line or stamp line depending on the terminology used by that dash camera. And in this case, the stamp line does by default include GPS coordinates. I'm showing you footage from an earlier drive where I had firmware version 1.2.0 installed, but the menu screens that I'm showing you are from firmware 1.3.5, and those are the settings where you can control the items that are on the stamp line, including the watermark in the upper left-hand corner. In a future firmware release, additional fields on the stamp line will be controllable through the settings, but by default, the GPS coordinates are displayed, and I've turned off that setting for the samples I include in the video. Now, let's get into the video samples. In this section of the video, I'll show you some sample footage from the VUEROID S1-4K Infinite Dash Camera. I'll start off with the front camera, since the video enhancing and video enhancing P for parking mode settings apply only to the front camera, and later on I'll show you some rear and interior footage. Starting off, we have the daytime, mid-morning with normal HDR infinite plate capture and HDR shown on the screen. At first, I'll be driving under an overpass. You can see how each of the video enhancement settings handle that situation. Then I'll be turning left, going eastbound, driving towards the sun, and you can see how the direct sunlight exposure is handled by each of these as well. Moving on to nighttime footage from that same section of roadway, the adjustments that I made to this configuration was that I removed the CPL filters from all three cameras, but the dash camera itself in the upper right, the one with the HDR plus infinite plate capture video enhancing setting, automatically disabled the infinite plate capture image quality tuning adjustments that it made because the ambient light level is too low for those to be beneficial at night. So it will dynamically enable or disable the infinite plate capture based on the ambient light levels that the front camera is exposed to while driving. I'm now going to show you a variety of license plate capture attempts using the 3 different video enhancing settings for the front camera. Specifics about the license plates are in the lower right corner. You can see the normal plate capture actually did the best in this, with HDR IPC second best. There are a couple factors that influence the ability of a dash camera to clearly capture the characters of the license plate: the distance between the vehicles, the speed difference between the vehicles, the vehicle that has the dash camera, and the speed of the vehicle traveling in the other direction. Whatever that speed difference is, the higher that number is, the more challenging it is, because the plate is moving far quicker, the higher that number goes. And then the amount of light that's reflecting off the license plate. So daytime captures tend to be easier than nighttime captures, depending on how well the headlights of your vehicle are shining on the license plate that you're trying to capture with the dash camera. In this plate capture, you can see that all 3 dash cameras capture the plates reasonably well, although the HDR plus infinite plate capture does just a little bit better on the rightmost car in the upper right corner there. But the conditions for this plate capture test are probably the easiest, since the overcast skies are creating a very even lighting environment. There's no headlights shining directly on the plates, creating a very bright versus dark area like you would have at night. And the plate capture was performed while the vehicles were at the stoplight, meaning the speed difference was at 0 miles per hour. In this nighttime city driving example, I wanted to show what the impacts were of having a CPL filter installed on the front camera. 2 of the front cameras have HDR enabled. One actually has infinite plate capture enabled, but that's automatically disabled by the firmware at night when the ambient light level is low. The plate capture for the car in the center turn lane, the speed difference is 30 miles per hour, and the camera with the CPL filter has a slightly degraded plate capture image for that vehicle. As I pass the pickup truck on the right, with the speed difference being about 10 miles per hour, the plate capture for both the HDR enabled cameras is very good, but you can see there's a slight quality degradation with the camera that has the CPL filter. Moving on to the parking mode version of the video enhancement setting for the front camera, and that's called Video Enhancing P in parentheses for parking mode. And the setting values are normal, premium night vision, and HDR. Normal and HDR behave just like they do for driving recordings. The unique one here is the premium night vision setting, and that enhances the image quality in extremely dark environments, but it also handles well-lit nighttime environments, and daytime parking mode also seems to look pretty good. If it were my particular installation for my camera in my car, I would probably recommend the premium night vision setting for your parking mode video enhancing P setting. Moving on to video samples from the rear camera. The rear camera has a Sony Starvis 2 IMX675 image sensor. Most of the time it records at 30 frames per second, except if the front camera is configured in a 3-channel configuration at 60 frames per second, then it will record at 15 frames per second. And HDR is always enabled with the rear camera. There's no setting to change the rear or interior camera. Both of those are always recording with HDR enabled. Moving on to the video samples from the interior camera. If you've purchased the 3-channel version of the S1-4K Infinite Dash camera, you get the interior camera, which is a full high definition or 1080p interior camera that uses the Sony Starvis IMX307 image sensor. It's capable of recording at 30 frames per second most of the time, except when the front camera is configured for 60 frames per second in a 3-channel configuration, and then it will be recording at 15 frames per second. I've included the front and rear camera video footage as well, so you can see what the lighting conditions are around the vehicle and how that impacts the recording quality of the interior camera footage. The interior camera has an ambient light sensor, which is used to detect when it is day or night based on the amount of available light in the passenger compartment. When it is daytime, the ambient light sensor will have the interior camera disable the infrared LEDs, and it will record color video footage. At night, it will enable the 3 infrared LEDs, and then it will record black and white video footage. In this video sample, the passenger compartment is well lit by the direct sunlight coming in the front windshield. The interior camera is recording a good quality image of both the interior of the vehicle and what's going on outside of the vehicle due to the HDR feature being enabled all of the time. In this next video sample, the vehicle is pointing the other direction, so the sun is behind the vehicle, and the passenger compartment is illuminated by indirect sunlight, but the video quality of the interior camera footage is still very good. This footage is from a nighttime drive near a shopping mall, so there's a lot of ambient light around the vehicle, and that's coming into the passenger compartment. The interior camera is recording decent footage when there's a large amount of ambient light coming into the vehicle, and there is a bit of graininess showing up in the interior camera footage if you look at it closely. In this last video sample segment for the interior camera, I'm driving my vehicle down a very dark rural road. Occasionally there will be a stoplight or a street light that will provide some ambient light from the outside of the vehicle into the passenger compartment, but primarily the interior camera is relying on the infrared LEDs to illuminate the passenger compartment. When the interior camera is relying solely on the infrared LEDs to illuminate the passenger compartment at night, the image quality degrades quite a bit. There's a lot of graininess in the video, plus the infrared LED does not illuminate anything really beyond the front passenger seat or the front driver's seat, and even at that, it's not very well illuminated on the edges of the field of view. If the intended use of this interior camera is to document what takes place in the second row passenger seat or the rear cargo area at night, this interior camera's infrared LEDs may not be sufficient for that purpose. If you have a ride share that you're trying to document what takes place, or a child seat in the rear passenger area, you might want to add some additional lighting in that area to make sure it's illuminated well enough for this camera to pick it up. Or if you drive during the daytime or you drive in well illuminated areas, then that's not a concern. Keep that in mind when you make your purchase decision. In this section of the video, I will present my power consumption test results for the S1-4K infinite dash camera while operating in parking mode. When I review a dash camera, I always perform a series of tests for driving mode operations and parking mode operations of the dash camera, and while performing those tests, I gather power consumption data. This screen is showing you a screenshot from my spreadsheet for the VUEROID S1-4K infinite 2-channel configuration with a front and rear camera, with the bitrate value set to high and the parking mode type listed in the left-hand column. The second column is the average watts that the dash camera was drawing in that particular mode of operation. And the next three columns are showing the time estimates for various battery pack capacities for dashcam battery packs. Now there are larger ones greater than the 96.0 watt hours, but these are the three common size dashcam battery pack capacities. And then I list two columns in each of those where I show 100% if you're able to use 100% of the dashcam battery pack store capacity, or 90% of it, since there usually is some internal draw for Bluetooth connections or whatever in the dashcam battery pack. So the 90% is probably the more realistic number based on the amount of power that's available truly to the dashcam itself. If you look at the last four lines in the spreadsheet screenshot, you'll see the various abbreviations that I use in the other portions of this screenshot. Moving back to the first column where I list the parking mode type, and those are impact and motion, impact and time lapse, and then I show ELPM, which is extreme low power mode, plus impact and motion, or plus impact and time lapse, because one of those two other parking modes is also enabled at the same time. If you would like a more detailed description of why that's the case, I do have a separate video on my channel that goes into depth about the various parking mode options for the S1-4K infinite dash camera. Just to the right of the parking mode type name, I have a state of operation in brackets. For example, impact and motion, I have a monitoring line, and then I have one that says recording. When impact and motion is active, it's monitoring 99% of the time, meaning it's filling a memory buffer with audio and video, waiting for a triggering impact or motion event. And then when the triggering event does occur, it moves to the recording state. And it takes a little bit more power while it's actually creating recording files at that point in time. With impact and time-lapse, it's continuously recording time-lapse video files until an impact event occurs, and then it pulls from that 10-second buffer and creates a 30-second video and audio recording at that point at 30 frames per second. Moving on to the extreme low power mode entries in this spreadsheet, first you'll notice that I've mentioned another parking mode of impact and motion, or impact and time-lapse, and that's because extreme low power mode is not a standalone parking mode. It is paired with that other parking mode. You have to select impact and motion or impact and time lapse, and then enable extreme low power mode as an add-on feature. They will work together to protect your vehicle in a better way by first, when you park the vehicle, it will transition to that other parking mode of impact and motion or impact and time lapse. It will operate in that particular parking mode as it would normally for a fixed period of time, and then it will transition from that parking mode to extreme low power mode, where it should stay for an extended period of time until an impact event occurs. And when the impact event does occur within 1 second, it will start recording 30-second recording files at 30 frames per second. But since it was in a low power state, it was not filling that 10-second memory buffer that I mentioned for the other parking modes above. So those are unbuffered recordings. At the end of those 30-second recordings, it will transition back to that other parking mode of impact and motion or impact and time lapse for a fixed transition period, and it will monitor and record as necessary based on that parking mode type. And then you'll transition back to extreme low power mode and then continue waiting for an impact event for an extended period of time. So 99.999% of the time, it will be in extreme low power mode. That's why I've listed the power draw for that specific state of operation. So when it is in extreme low power mode, it draws 1 milliamp or less, or 0.01 watts or less, and the time estimates are so long because of that very low power draw state. That means a vehicle battery can be a very good candidate to power this dash camera in that parking mode. But depending on the number of parking mode impact events that occur while it's recording, that's why I show the power draw when it's been awakened and recording those 30-second videos. So keep in mind that it's paired with that other parking mode, and it will transition through those other parking modes, but it will operate in extreme low power mode most of the time. Moving on to this screen, it looks a little bit more complicated, but it's basically the same chart layout as the 2-channel configuration. This is for the S1-4K Infinite 3-channel with the front, rear, and interior cameras. And the average watts column and the time estimates have additional entries based on the fact that the interior camera can be operated in the day and night. When it's at night, the ambient light sensor will have it turn on the infrared LEDs, thus consuming more power. And then there's a configuration setting to use or not use the interior camera while in parking mode. So that's the interior camera IC off day or IC off night. So look at the power consumption information and the time estimates. But you'll notice that extreme low power mode, when it's in extreme low power mode, that doesn't change based on the number of cameras because it's in that monitoring state in the front camera waiting for the impact event to be detected. So those are still the same, even though it's a 3-channel configuration. What does change for extreme low power mode is when it's actually recording video files and whether the interior camera is enabled or not, or whether it's day or night. In this section, I'll go over the pros and cons for the VUEROID S1-4K Infinite Dash Camera, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. Starting off on the list of pros, the front and rear cameras are using some of the leading image sensors on the market today, the Sony Starvis 2 image sensors. For the front, you have the Sony Starvis 2 IMX678 for that 4K ultra high definition video it can capture. And for the rear camera, it's using the Sony Starvis 2 IMX675 image sensor, which is a 2K or quad high definition capable image sensor. Moving on to the next pro, which is quick boot and recording start times. At power on and in response to an impact event in extreme low power parking mode, this dash camera will begin recording within 1 second. This is a great way of making sure your vehicle is protected as quickly as possible in those situations. Moving on to the next item in the list, which is the video enhancement modes for the front camera. There are 3 options available for driving recording: normal, HDR plus infinite plate capture, and then HDR by itself. The infinite plate capture is a set of image quality tuning adjustments applied to the front camera image sensor that attempts to better capture license plates, while the ambient light level is higher, which is the time between sunrise and sunset. For parking mode, there is a setting of normal, and then a parking mode specific one called Premium Night Vision, which will try to enhance the amount of ambient light around the vehicle to record things that are not normally captured in normal mode or HDR mode. And then you have HDR. Now these settings apply only to the front camera, and if you go back and look at the video samples and the features and specifications, I mentioned that the interior and rear cameras, if you have those in your installation, those always have HDR enabled day or night, driving or parked. Moving on to the next item in the list, which is the multiple parking mode types supported by this dash camera. You have impact and motion, impact and time lapse, and optionally extreme low power mode. Impact and motion or impact and time lapse, one of those has to be selected at all times. And then extreme low power mode has a toggle switch which allows you to enable it in addition to the impact and motion or impact and time lapse. In the features and specifications section of this video, I explain how extreme low power mode works together with impact and motion or impact and time lapse. Plus, I do have a second video on my channel that talks about the parking mode operations of this dash camera in depth. Look in the video description section for that link when that video is available. Next item on the list of pros is the GPS-based auto record off zones feature. This gives you the ability to define up to 3 zones where when you park your vehicle in one of those zones and the zone is enabled in the settings, you will have the dash camera simply turn off rather than go into parking mode. This is a great way of saving power on your vehicle's battery or dash cam battery pack and save the recording time on the memory card if you don't need it to record, such as it's parked at home inside of a garage or a safe area at work. So that's another nice feature to have in the dash camera. Moving on to the power options that support parking mode, the box includes a 3-wire hardwire cable, or you can buy an optional accessory of the VUEROID OBD power cable. If you don't need parking mode support, you can use the cigarette lighter power adapter that's included in the box, or you can provide your own USB cable and USB power adapter to plug into the USB-C port on the side of the dash camera. Moving on to firmware updates, and that's in my list of pros because the VUEROID Hub app, which is available for iOS and Android devices, can update the firmware over the air. There's no need to download anything from the website, put it on the memory card, although that is a supported way of updating the firmware. You have the convenience of using firmware over the air with this dash camera. Moving on to my short list of cons for this dash camera, the first one's related to the 3-channel package, which includes the interior camera. The interior camera by itself is fine. It works well in the daytime. The 1080p full high definition footage is good. In fact, with HDR video enhancing technology always being enabled, you can see what's going on inside your vehicle and to the sides and the back because the field of view is 170 degrees, so it captures everything that goes on very well. My main complaint for the interior camera is the grainy footage that's recorded for it at night. That seems to be rooted in the infrared LEDs. There's only 3 of them. Plus the light pattern they generate is fairly narrow, and the amount of infrared light they generate is fairly low. So you can see basically what's going on in the front passenger area, but even that is illuminated not very well in many situations. If you're trying to see what's going on in the second passenger row and further back in the vehicle, there's insufficient infrared light to illuminate basically anything that's going on back there. So if you're using this primarily at night, you may need to add an additional light source in the back there if you're trying to record what's going on for rideshare purposes, or if you have a child car seat back there. But if you're using it in the daytime only, the interior camera should do well for you. The next 2 items on the list are related to the rear camera. The first one being the lens adjustment range for the rear camera may not work for vehicles that have flat vertical glass, like at the rear of a pickup truck cab, and you need to have the camera aimed at a 90-degree angle straight across the top of the rear tailgate. So if you have vertical glass, but it's at the rear of the vehicle, like a hatchback, that's fine because the camera has full range of visibility to what you need to record. Just keep that in mind if you're trying to install this into a pickup truck that has the camera far forward from the rear of the vehicle. This may be an issue for you. The second issue is for any VUEROID customer that has a D21-4K camera. The rear camera cable looks very similar, but the transmission technology used for the video signal is different between the D21-4K and the S1-4K, so you cannot reuse the cable from the D21-4K for the rear camera. You must install the rear camera cable supplied with the S1-4K to use it with the S1-4K rear camera. Moving on to the last item in my list of cons, it's related to the artificial intelligence license plate restoration and AI privacy protection features. They're not in the dash camera itself. It's a cloud-based service on the VUEROID server side, and the AI logic is learning every day. So there's situations where it's not handling the plate restoration or the privacy blurring as well as it could, but that's being worked on aggressively by NCN and enhancing that service every day. So check it out. see how well it works for you, and know that NCAND is working on that service very aggressively to make it a good feature for you in the future. And now that you've heard my list of pros and cons, what are my final thoughts about this dash camera? I think NCAND has put a lot of time and effort into this product. They've had a lot of feedback from testers like myself. Based on the feature set of this dash camera and the stability that the production firmware brings to the dash camera, I think this product will sell well into the North American market. I believe the extreme low power parking mode, only drawing 1 milliamp of power while it's waiting for the triggering impact event, and it starts recording within 1 second of that triggering impact event. That's a very interesting and attractive feature for a lot of dash cam buyers, since they can use their vehicle's battery to power that dash camera in that parking mode for an extended period of time without the need to buy a very expensive dash cam battery pack. So that completes my list of pros and cons and final thoughts about the VUEROID S1-4K Infinite Dash Camera. If you have a question or comment about the dash camera, make sure you leave that down in the comments section. If you learned something from this video, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification to be notified when I upload new videos just like this one to the channel. Make sure you look in the video description section for the links to the parking mode video for this dash camera and any other sample footage videos I might have for this dash camera. If you wish to purchase it, make sure you look for the affiliate links in the description section as well. It doesn't cost you any extra to use those affiliate links, and it's a great way of supporting the channel. Thanks for watching the video all the way to the end. I appreciate that, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.